everyone, and welcome to another episode of Found Table. We're super excited to host another session talking all things GA4. Super lucky to have two amazing experts with us today. So I am joined by Harry, who's a business director here at Found, and Dora, who is managing director of a company called Braidr, our sister data and analytics agency. So GA4 is coming our way. Universal Analytics will be sunsetting at the end of June. So come the 1st of July, Universal Analytics will stop processing all data. And so it is imperative brands are taking this super seriously to transition over to GA4 as soon as possible to ensure that you have accurate data to make judgments for your own internal marketing campaigns. So to kickstart the conversation today, I think what would be really great for us to dive into are the kind of key benefits of transitioning over to GA4. And by benefits, it kind of needs to happen, doesn't it, Dora? So clock is ticking. Absolutely. But what would be your key kind of takeaways and key benefits of the platform in itself?
Right. So Google Analytics 4 is the next generation measurement solution from Google. It's a lot more integrated in the Google systems, and it brings together the two streams of measurement that we've never been able to accurately track together, and that is the web and the app.
Yeah.
So for anyone that has real estate on both app and web, Google Analytics 4 is the first solution in its class at enterprise level that will unify those two streams of data. Another benefit that Google Analytics 4 brings is its predictive capabilities. We know that with the gaps in the data introduced by the privacy controls, we have some work to do in finding the missing sessions and the missing users. So Google Analytics predictive capabilities help us do just that, fill in those gaps. Another benefit, and I will stop at 3, is the fact that Google Analytics 4 is now built on a completely new infrastructure, and that probably will not interest a lot of the users of the platform. But just to let you know, the Google Analytics 3 was built on infrastructure that was probably 20 years old. It wasn't fit for purpose anymore. So Google Analytics 4 comes with a big overhaul of everything that is just behind the scenes.
And with that, what would you say are the key challenges when it comes to migrating over from UA to GA4?
Right. So Google Analytics 4 introduces different concepts and different ways of looking at measurements. So when before it was all about sessions and users and loads of types of hits that no one really understood. Right now, it's all about the user, and it's all about the events that those users do on the website. So everything is an event. We have a lot more to track, more opportunities to track about every single interaction that the user makes with the website or the app. And we have everything centered on the user. So that makes it much easier to unify those user journeys at user level throughout their sessions and throughout their interactions. And with the events, it's much easier to organize the tracking for a website based on every single interaction with its elements. So yeah, there's a few benefits that come with GA4. Some people will not call the full overhaul a benefit because it looks the way it looks at the moment. It's still a nascent produce, but Google are very much hard at work on this.
The next iteration as well, and they're always looking to improve.
Absolutely.
And for companies and brands that are watching this who haven't yet transitioned over, obviously year-on-year data is such an asset. I mean, since the pandemic, year-on-year has obviously been a bit more challenging to make comparisons against. But if you haven't transitioned already, when you're looking at year-on-year data, given that the transition is happening for July, how would companies go about looking at year-on-year? Is there any way that they can download the data? And
so, for some of those people that have been clients of Found, for example, we've done a campaign like this last year, and we've migrated most of them a year ago. So now when it comes to year-on-year data, it's going to be quite easy to compare apples to apples.
Yeah.
For those who haven't migrated yet or are in the process of migrating now, year-on-year data is going to be challenging. Number one, the metrics don't mean the same thing.
Yeah.
Number two, the tracking in the two different systems are going to have inconsistencies. As much as we would like them not to, there will always be inconsistencies. Nothing to worry about at top level, but when you dive into different segments, there may be data that doesn't really make sense from one platform to the other. We can definitely do the comparisons. For this, we need something called BigQuery, which is a storage solution by Google, which is quite easy to use by professionals. We download all the data into BigQuery, we merge it at various levels, and then the year-on-year comparisons are quite easy to do. However, this includes extra steps, extra effort, and extra work for everyone involved in getting that data if you haven't migrated last year.
Yeah. And I'm super proud of the fact that Found have pretty much migrated, I would say 95% of our clients over to GA4. And Harry, you've been a key part in making sure that we've been spearheading those conversations with clients. Yeah. So how has the narrative been for you putting GA4 well and truly on the agenda, making sure that CMOs and our key stakeholders are taking GA4 super seriously?
Yeah, I think the big thing for a lot of clients, it's been the monster coming over the hill for years now. And I think a lot of people have been pushing off fully adopting it because most businesses, I'd say the vast majority use analytics as their sort of single point of truth across marketing and all activity. And so many things are plugged in that the idea of having to change out to a completely different platform and the way it measures things is different, the integrations are different, has been so daunting that people have sort of kicked the can down the road with, just less than a year ago, so July last year, for us being the deadline really for most of our clients to let us do that year-on-year comparison. But even still, there are businesses out there that haven't transitioned yet. So what we've been saying is this sort of, the later you leave it, the more problems you're going to have. So, the earlier you migrate across, life's going to be easier. You have more time to get used to the platform. All of your reporting and things can slowly transition across. And everyone who has some input and sort of takes data out of analytics will be more familiar with how to use GA4. Because I think that's what we're seeing a lot now as people at all levels transition to using that as their reporting dashboard is, where do I find this report? How do I see this? Some of those reports haven't, they don't exist in GA4, so it's a case of showing them what the new data looks like. But the reality is, as we've said, come July, you don't have a choice. So you do have to adopt it as soon as you can. So fortunately, a lot of our clients are very forward-thinking and are already there and do all of their primary reporting out of GA4. For others, it's a case of helping them understand the full range of implications for come July when we can't use the UA data. How do they want to use it? So it's really making sure that we understand from the client everyone across the board who needs to use it and make sure they have everything they need for the transition and have a full understanding of where they need to pull bits of data and reporting after the 1st of July this year.
Yeah, great. And you mentioned there, Harry, about a number of our clients already having GA4 as their primary reporting platform. Do you think that's still going to be the case in the way that UA was, or do you think brands are going to adopt a different way of working? This is a question to both of you, but Harry, if you can kick us off with that one.
I think so. I think for a little while there'll be a teething period where people will probably make more requests of us for reports that they previously would have known where it was in UA. So I think what we'll try and do is translate some of the data into things like Looker Studio reports. So for a lot of our clients, we create a dashboard that just shows on a single page or in a selection of pages exactly the data that they want to see. I expect, and we do see a little bit of it now, those demands kind of going up, where people go, right, I'm going to log into GA4, I have no idea what that is. Can you create a report that does this? And that's fine, and that's just a level of service that we provide. In terms of how people adapt, I think it's like anything. Everyone's scared of the change, they get used to it over time, and then actually as you get familiar with GA4, you start to understand and unlock. It's a much more capable platform. It's very different, so it's kind of new and scary, but when you get into it, it's probably able to do a lot of reporting that you weren't able to do previously, which I think Dora touched upon with what GA4 can do.
There's the other aspect of analytics work in general, or analytics numbers and tracking in general, with the cookie policy popping up everywhere, with people not allowing cookies through their browsers, and with consumers just generally more concerned about sharing their data. Analytics platforms, and regardless what those analytics platforms are going to struggle to have the full source of truth, the unique source of truth that those businesses were so reliant on previously. So right now, I would say analytics, whichever systems are used, are not sufficient for getting that one source of truth for marketing. I would definitely recommend the businesses back up the data with their CMS platforms and make small but significant changes in the way they work and the way they engage with analytics teams to make sure that important information about the channels they use and especially with Google Ads, that information is stored in their CMS, not just in the analytics systems, because that's the way we can have a more accurate representation of what actually the performance of those campaigns are. I know this is a lot of complications that are being brought to the table, but unfortunately, with the cookies going away, this is the reality we live in right now.
It's the reality, isn't it? And I think GA4 is just one piece of the cookieless future pie, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And I think maybe not in the sweeping statement, a lot of companies think, oh, GA4, tick, I'm prepared for the cookieless future, but actually that's just one small milestone to prepare for the cookieless future.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to ask you both, what other things or tactics or activity should brands be taken super seriously in the cookieless future?
Right. So GA4 handles the measurement side of things. Like I said, the predictive element of it will help us build those gaps which we are going to be missing in the tracking. But then when it comes to understanding who your audiences are and understanding how to tackle them, what best works for your customers, then it's back to the drawing board in doing work that is around who your customers are, audience insights, monitoring your social media, being present where your customers are and drawing as much information from your customers as you can. And then leveraging back that data, your first party data, into everything that you do, be it writing copy for your social, writing copy for your Google Ads, your creative, which is going to be so much more important now, and doing the best that you can to utilize your first party data to personalize the user journeys of your existing customers for loyalty, but also into acquiring new customers.
Yeah, I think what you touched on there, Dora, around creative, that needs to be front and centre, right, Harry, in our clients' strategies. I think PMax has brought so much goodness to our industry, but it's got a lot to learn, particularly with the creative capabilities and actually how brands can look to really win when using automation is by having that creative edge in the cookieless future as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think the simplest way I think about it is the focus now needs to be much more on quality than quantity. So I think we were quite blessed in the past few years of you could measure everything, you could track a lot of data, even as data privacy started to ramp up in the sort of last 5 years or so. There's still a big grey area where people can operate with sort of mass marketing lists. I think the way you have to think about it is those days are over. Everyone has to adopt data privacy and take it very seriously because that's the future we're moving into. It shouldn't be seen as a negative. It should be seen as a way of really improving what you're doing, working a lot smarter and just improving the quality of what you do. So rather than just fairly bland creatives, but if you serve them to enough people, the performance will be in there somewhere. I think now you have to really think about your audience, really personalising what you're doing, not at an individual level, which is where we're not going to be in the sort of cookieless future, but more in, like Dora mentioned, sort of a cohort level. So think about your audience in different segments and groups or cohorts, and what's a personalised, really tailored user experience for them. And what we're seeing is, sort of lower volume of data, but actually the performance, if you really tweak the quality of what you're doing, the quality of the creative, the personalisation of that customer journey, you're seeing much higher, much greater performance at that sort of cohort level than we had previously. So I think it's time for sort of people in our industry to sort of pull up your socks and go, right, there's no shortcuts anymore, and you do have to sort of think a lot smarter and harder about what you're doing. But the reality is that, if you can adopt that, you are going to deliver much better performance than you saw previously. It's just, there isn't an easy way to get there.
There isn't an easy way, is there? And so, to summarise, for the brands watching this video who haven't yet migrated over to GA4, obviously they need to start now, but realistically, how long, Dora, does it actually take to transition across, and ultimately, when should they start the conversations?
Right. Conversations should have started last year, but we are here. So the sooner the better.
Yeah.
In terms of the transition itself, you leave that to the professionals. It gets done within around 4 weeks. Regardless of the complexity of the site, you should be able to have a functioning Google Analytics 4 account within the month. That should be fine. the real work and the harder work begins when you start logging into the Google Analytics 4 interface, learning it, understanding how it feeds into your other systems. If you have a business intelligence system that links to it, if you have various dashboards internally that your business relies on, if you have trading decks that get fed information from Google Analytics Universal, all of that would then need to be migrated and transitioned to Google Analytics 4. So yes, the transition itself and the implementation of the technology can be done in parallel, regardless of what the business is doing. The experts will handle that. But the real work begins when the business has to adopt and start utilizing that data.
And training the team. I think, as an agency, we can absolutely resonate with that as well. It's a completely different shift in our industry, and we need to make sure that we have the right amount of time to get used to the interface.
Absolutely, and then the marketing teams should be able to confidently explain to the other business stakeholders why the numbers look the way they do, why don't they, why are there gaps when it comes to the Google Analytics 4 versus Universal Analytics, why are the sessions going up or down all of a sudden, and why should they be now trusting this particular system versus the old. So it's, the burden of transitioning is not just on the agency, it's on the internal marketing teams as well. And we all need to work as one cohesive team to create this transition in the mindset of businesses.
Amazing. Well, I think that brings us to a close. I just want to say thank you so much, Dora and Harry. That were amazing insights. We are all tagged in this video. So if you've got any other questions, please feel free to reach out to all three of us in direct messages, and we will be back with another episode super soon. Thank you.